Is it impossible for a lower income earner to invest $1 million in 2026?
So that is the one thing that's really just going to get you there as far as achieving that next property purchase goes.
Earning just $71,000 per year, they can borrow
$1 million.
Together with property investor and mortgage broker Morgan Bushel, we walk through the levers you could potentially pull to increase your borrowing power even on a lower income.
The way banks look at HECS is they index it to your income.
It's not going to affect him as much as if he was on 150 grand a year.
Exactly. If you just make these small tweaks, you'll be able to get there. So a couple of examples that I see of cleaning this up would be
whether you're on 60, 70, 80 grand a year, or even if you're kicking goals already and you're on 150, 200, there is so many simple takeaways in this episode that can drastically change the future growth of your portfolio. My name's Todd Sloan. This is the Pizza and Property Podcast. Let's get straight into this chat with Morgan Bushel. Morgan Bushel, how you going, man?
Good, thanks, Todd. How are you?
Mate, I'm pumped. We're talking about how to borrow $1 million on 71K income. I love that it's 71K as well. In 2026.
Yep.
We did an episode similar to this a little while ago when rates were like heaps lower, but now they've gone up, obviously, over the past few years. No one's missed that memo.
Yeah.
And there's potentially talk about them going up again. We're recording this kind of mid to late Jan. We might see another few hikes. It might just happen once. Like no one knows exactly, not even the RBA. But mate, you've got a whole bunch of different steps in here to actually break it apart for someone listening right now that's thinking, I've missed the boat. And you were showing me a few of these figures just beforehand of what the first step looks like. And it absolutely looks like the boat has been missed. But then with the right amount of like cleaning up and know-how, you can still get to $1 million on 71K. But man, is there anything you want to set the stage with before we start getting into all of the tricks and tips and details?
Yeah, I do actually. What we'll go through will actually make it really obvious that it is possible to get to this level. And just putting the numbers behind it will show that, look, there's not doom and gloom. If you just make these small tweaks, you'll be able to get there.
I love it. Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, paint the picture at the very beginning. So what are we talking about as far as we know someone's income is 71? That's fixed. That's not changing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What is their financial situation looking like? Can you sort of give me the details?
Yeah, sure. So we've got someone who's single. They have a little bit of HECS debt, so about $10,000 owing on their HECS. This person also has a $10,000 credit card. They are also renting somewhere in Australia. They're paying $600 per week at the moment, and they've already got one property, which is worth $625 with a loan of $500K on that.
And what's the yield on that?
So that one's yielding about 5% at the moment.
5%. Okay. So a high yield for the time, but nothing that's, you're not expecting like a 7 or 8, anything that's like a real swing for the fence.
Yeah, like it's nothing super regional, but it's nothing completely like, Bondi kind of thing.
I looked up Bondi yield just the other day. Do you know what it is?
Oh, what is it?
1.75%.
Oh, that's nuts.
Great place to rent vest.
Yeah.
But anyway, so current situation, what are they looking at borrowing? Just with like a couple of examples that you've got ready before they clean anything up.
Yeah. So before we clean up like anything up here, we're looking at getting an extra $54,000 in additional lending on top of their current lending right now. And the last thing is HEM. So we've gone off a HEM of about $2,500 per month.
So, and just so we can be aware, that's like lower, but not crazy low. Like, is that pretty average or?
Yeah. For like a single person on like their kind of income, it's low, but it's not like crazy low either.
All right. So this situation, exactly what you've just described, they walk into a bank. We'll just call him Tom. Tom walks into a bank. How much can he get? Can you give us a few examples?
Yeah, sure. So basically, if Tom was to walk into any major bank right now, Combank, for example, they actually won't be able to lend Tom any money at all. Literally
zero.
Yeah, they'll say, sorry, you have too much debt. Sorry.
Please leave right now without a fuss.
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. If he was to go second or third tier?
Yeah. So again, like depending on some of the banks, if he were to go to a second tier bank, so First Mac, for example, he can only get about $54,000 in additional lending.
So unless he invests that money into a time machine that works and goes back 30 years, he's not buying a house.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what's our first move? What are we doing to clean up Tom's finances? I've named him Tom, by the way. You all right with that?
Yeah, that's
good.
Cool.
Okay, cool.
All right.
What are we doing for Tom?
All right. So I think the first thing that's really easy just to do is to clean up his HEM. So basically spend less money.
Okay. And how much less? Because obviously there is a certain element of sacrifice in this. This isn't kind of push a button and $1 million appears.
Yeah.
We talking what, like numbers wise?
Yeah, look, we're not going to go super low like $1,000 because that's just not real. We're actually going to just drop it by $500 per month, so down to $2,000.
Okay, and what happens to his borrowing then if it goes from $2,500 to $2,000?
Okay, so by making this one change, $500 less per month, the borrowing capacity with First Mac as our example, it actually just doubles. So it goes to $113,000 in additional lending.
Okay, so $113,000. And bearing in mind as well, just to recap, I know you said at the start, but Tom's already got one investment property.
Yes.
So this is, like you said, additional lending.
Yeah.
But so we're going from 54 to 113. So a whopping improvement as far as a percentage is concerned, but it's still a useless kind of approval figure.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, what's next?
So a couple of examples that I see of cleaning this up would be just reviewing your financial position. So things that you maybe aren't using or you could use alternatively. So if you've got a gym membership, for example, it might just be pausing that for a few months, or maybe instead of using the treadmill there, just run outside.
The ground is free.
Yep, that is. Some other things as well, which is very easy, is, for example, like subscription services. So things like Netflix, for example.
You're the same as me. Do you like borrow off other people? It's like,
yes, I do. I do.
I feel like I can more than afford to now, but I can't break that habit.
Yeah, it's like the sisters, the mum and dads. Yeah. It's like we're all just kind of sharing with each other. But yeah.
I think we've got Bianca's best friend, Amanda. Thank you, Amanda, her stan. But anyway.
Just don't dob on us, please.
Yeah. All right, so you're talking about a few cuts, but I think the real big takeaway there for me is also, unless you want to go into full mode like you and I do, just even when we don't need to, it's only for a few months. You don't need to live the rest of your life like this.
That's right, yeah. So it's just for a very small sacrifice window just to help us, get or buy that next property.
Okay, but 113,000, it's still nowhere near where we need to be. What's the next move we can make?
Okay, so the next thing that we're going to focus on is bad debt. So, for example, credit card for Tom.
What's he currently got as far as, what's it called? Because credit card's not what you've spent. It's what you've actually got as ability to spend, like your borrowing limit.
That's right. Like you could have 0 owing, but if your limit's 10, the bank will assess it at 10.
And what do you got for Tom?
10.
10. Okay. Okay, so 10. And actually tell me, because I'm only recently just now started playing around with the idea of credit cards, and it's more so for the whole points hacking. Otherwise, I've always looked at them as the devil's plastic. I've never used them. But from what I understand, I'm probably a little bit more of an anomaly. You see this all the time, yeah?
I do, yeah.
What is a normal sort of limit for people, and what's kind of lowest and highest you normally see?
I think normal, it's probably somewhere between 7 and 10 is where we see. So for Tom, we're going on the bit of the higher end.
Okay.
Probably the highest I've seen since becoming a broker is maybe 50.
Wow. Okay.
That's pretty damn high.
The thing that I love about this, if you're playing along at home, this isn't always about paying off $10,000 worth of debt. This is simply about actually clearing the ability to put yourself in $10,000 worth of debt. You might just have a credit card sitting there with 0. And then how much is it upping Tom's borrowing from $113,000 to what, Morgan?
Okay. So again, focusing on the banks that we were kind of looking at. So major banks, it's still a no from these banks. So there's no extra lending. But if we go back to our other example, the second tier bank, First Mac, for example, his lending actually now increases to $152,000.
So going from 113,000 to 152. So again, still not too many options here. Yeah. But the thing that kind of stands out to me is that's roughly a multiple of 4. So if someone's listening to this thinking, I've got a 25K credit card, and again, maybe no debt on it, that could literally be holding back potentially around $100,000 of borrowing.
Yeah, that's right. Talking numbers high level, it's not super wow factor, but when you consider it as a multiple amount, that's pretty big.
Well, and this is where I'm sort of thinking already, we've got a long way to jump and only a few moves left, Morgan. So what are the other big things that we're looking at to make this biggest change? Because we're at 152 grand and we've got to get up to $1 million. So because Tom's already got the original investment property, technically we're actually at 652 instead of the 152. But so we're wanting to move this to 500. So that way it's the collective $1 million.
That's right, yes.
Got it. There's a long way to go, mate. What's next?
So the next one is HECS. So it's the cheapest form of debt that you'll ever have in your life, only because interest rates are indexed to inflation. However, for Tom, we're obsessed with the number 10 here. He's got a limit of $10,000 too.
Tell me, because I never went to uni. Actually, that's a lie. I went for a day and then I had my appendix out that day. I was like, well, this must be an omen. Uni's not for me. But I never got a HECS debt. I know lots of people have got it, and I know some people have got, I talked to someone the other day, $100,000 in HECS. Is that crazy, or is that actually a bit normal? Is this basically lower for Tom, or is this pretty standard?
This is pretty low. I mean, you're getting close to almost paying the thing off. But then I guess it depends what kind of job or what you studied, for example. So some of the more specialized things like lawyers, doctors, for example, as soon as you leave uni, you're going to have a pretty high balance at that point. So here's a really interesting thing about HECS and your borrowing power that not many people know.
Okay.
So it doesn't actually matter what your limit is and what you've got owing. What actually happens though is the way banks look at HECS is they index it to your income.
Okay, so whether Tom had 10 grand of debt or 100 grand of debt, because he's on 71,000 a year, he's not going to, like, it's not going to affect him as much as if he was on 150 grand a year.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay. So for Tom then, I'm assuming, given what you've just said, this isn't going to move the needle much.
No, it's not. It's not going to move it a lot, but it still will count.
Okay. What happens if he clears it?
So same situation, we will not have any borrowing power with any of the major banks. They'll still say no. Again, looking back at First Mac, for example, it increases to 158,000 of new lending.
So that's hardly anything.
It's nothing.
Out of interest, I don't know if you've modeled this, but can we see if Tom was to actually go to 150, like how much does that change it? Because right now we're talking about a change of 6 grand. I feel like we've probably just lost a few viewers going, this isn't getting to $1 million.
Yeah.
But what if he actually did go, all right, promotion time, I'm on like 150K.
That's a pretty decent promotion to begin with.
Just a really good promotion, yeah.
But okay, if we kind of play with this, for example, that kind of salary increase, just to begin with, still keeping the HECS, the borrowing power with First Mac, because we'll use them as an example here, it goes to 511.
Okay, and then getting rid of the HECS, what's the difference? Because obviously the borrowing power is going to go up, but it's that difference between having it and not having it that I'm curious on.
That's it. So more money means more borrowing power. But if we remove that 10 grand in HECS, it actually jumps to 692.
So almost 200 grand difference, the same amount of debt, but just because Tom's earning more.
So Todd, it's actually really good that we talked about HECS at this point in the journey. Because for Tom, with him, for example, paying off 10 grand to save 8 grand in borrowing power, it's actually not worth the exercise. However, if Tom had doubled his income, paying off 10 grand gives him an extra 200K borrowing power.
Okay, so if his income's 150, he should absolutely be looking at wiping this. So if anyone's listening and they're on a higher income, getting rid of your HECS, probably a really good thing to focus on. But in Tom's situation, I mean, especially if he's got to save some of that money, I mean, that's $200 a week over a year to save 10 grand to get 6 in borrowing. I see what you're saying.
That's it. Yeah. Like if you were Tom and you were asking me, hey, should I pay this off with my 71K income? I'd be saying, no, don't do it yet.
Okay, so at 158 or 658, including the original, we're still trying to get to $1 million here.
Yeah.
Like, have you messed up or are we getting there?
No. Like we're actually going to get there. So the last string to pull on is living at home with mum and dad.
How much? Obviously, that's going to change it a lot because we've got a big gap to close. What does it change?
Yeah, okay. So if we're looking literally for the sake of comparison, First Mac, for example, the lending gets to 490. So by moving back home, we actually now have borrowing power with major banks.
Okay.
So if we, for example, just look at CBA, your max borrowing power with them is 310. However, if we're kind of sticking with the bank we've talked about all like show, First Mac will be able to go up to 490.
So all in then, we're looking at, what is that, 990,000. So we're not cracking $1 million.
Yeah, we're not there yet. However, if we were to use a third tier bank, so Pepper Money, for example, they will be able to lend you $505,000.
So at the end, Tom is then, if he goes to Pepper, and bear in mind, they're not doing this because they're nice guys, that I'm assuming the interest rate is also higher as well, which we'll get to in a second. Yeah. But so then Tom would have 1,005,000 and what? Let's go to the penny. How much?
5,717,000.
Okay. Why? Why is that such a big one to pull? So basically his borrowing power is increasing by 300 plus by moving home.
Rent just has a really big impact on borrowing power compared to living at home with mum and dad.
Talk to me about what you need to do, because let's say someone's listening to this going, I don't have that option. Mum and dad aren't in my life. They're not in the state. They're whatever the situation is. Can it be the same thing living with a friend? Does that work?
It does, yes. As long as you can get a rent-free letter from whoever it is that you choose to reside with, this basically is you.
Let's open this up more because this is a very powerful letter by the sounds of things. So I've knocked on James's door. It's like, knock, knock, knock. James, you got your own house. You got a spare room. Can I live with you for, how long do I need to live with him? A month, a year, or what?
Yeah. I mean, let's be realistic with this. Like, we're not going to say one day because that's just BS. But, it needs to be something that's obviously substantial enough for a bank to go, okay, yeah, look, this is a clear life change from whatever it was you were doing before, and this is now your current circumstance.
And what does James need to do? Does he need to fill out like an affidavit? Does he need to like go to the bank? How does this work?
No. So David actually has to...
James.
James. Oh, sorry.
I said an affidavit.
Oh my God. All right. Okay. Sorry, James.
I don't know why I got so defensive there.
So, okay, James has to basically prepare a letter saying that you're living in his property rent-free. There's no expectation to contribute any form of rent, and he needs to sign that. There's a specific format that banks want it in, but that's kind of a high-level explanation of it.
So this isn't even like a letter from the lawyer, nothing like that. It's literally just like, hi, I'm James, also known as David. I'm letting Todd live in my property for free, etc. Like insert template here.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, like I normally see them include like their phone number or something if the bank ever wants to call them. Most of the time they don't, but yeah, it's normally that's the arrangement.
So the thing that I like about this is it's not forever, it's just for now. I remember years ago, I had this concept of what if you actually treated getting to financial freedom the same way as treating a degree? I remember talking to friends about it and I called it like a bachelor of retirement, and it's kind of funny, but it was like a really good mindset to have to go, all right, for the next 4 years, as if I was a student, can I eat mee goreng umpteen times a week? Not every day, it's probably not the best thing for you, but like what are all of the little things I can cut? As if I was a student. Because if you are going to like study to be an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer, or whatever, you're happy to go into sacrifice mode. Because again, you know it's not forever, it's just for a season. Yeah. So looking at this, you're basically painting a picture of being able to potentially buy a whole nother investment property potentially.
Yeah.
Which is then going to compound over the years. So like hold that for 2 cycles, that $500,000 investment, given historical performance, if it continues, is going to be $1.5 million in equity. That's massive. Like what a return for sleeping at James's place for a little while or mum and dad's.
That's it. Yeah. And I mean, like you literally said, I mean, things in life will change. Like salary will increase. Maybe you could return the favor to James as well. Like it's nothing's permanent. Lending rules, for example, might change. So me as the broker, I can do things to help improve the cash flow of the property as well. So it's all going to just come down to time and not being forever.
And your rents are going to go up as well. How many properties do you have that you used to rent out for $300 a week that now you're renting out for $500 a week because you've held them for a cycle?
That's it.
Yeah. Out of interest, I want to stress test this a little bit, okay? Because I'm just picturing someone's listening to this in 6 months' time, however long, rates have gone up.
Yes.
Can we chuck like not 0.2%, like can we chuck a full like 0.5% or something on this? What are the options still? Because it was 505,000 on top of the additional.
Yep.
What changes?
Yeah, so 0.5% increase 6 months from now, for example, we're looking at an additional lend of 463,000.
All right, so 463,000. Okay, so it's still, again, obviously better off when rates are lower. There's never been any argument of that.
Yeah.
But 463, there's still possibility.
Yeah, like honestly, you're just a few K short of 1 mil, but yeah, it's not completely that bad.
All right, Morgan, so all in all, lower your expenses with the HEM, and you're not talking crazy lower, $500 a month, right? It's a few haircuts, a few gym memberships cancelled, whatever. So we might see a little bit of long hair around the place when you're an investor. Like, but clear bad debts. HECS is a really interesting one. If your income is higher, absolutely worth considering. If your income is lower, like Tom's, maybe not as much. But living at home or living with a friend, essentially living rent free, that's the golden lever to pull.
Yeah, so that is the one thing that's really just going to get you there as far as achieving that next property purchase goes.
Love it. Morgan Bushel from Full Circle Finance, thank you so much again for jumping on the show, man.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.